you can see us and hear us. We can't see you or hear you, but it's good to have everybody along. This is our Google Hangout for the 2016, bless you, Rita, 2016 photo crew, and we're glad to have everybody here. So we have, I guess, maybe about 2 hours worth of stuff, maybe less, if we can make it through it. But we're going to go over some of the just the operating norms for the crew and just talk a little bit about how things are going to work for this year, some of the new things for this year. Jamie's going to give us an overview of sort of the things that they're looking for from a content perspective, and we'll have a little bit of we would call it a breakout session if we were all together, but we won't, so it's sort of a linear thing. But we'll have a few sort of specialized things to talk about: shooting the festival, Lightroom, and shooting in low light. These are all things that people tend to either want to learn about or at least get a refresher on if they're already familiar with all that stuff. So I guess I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Jonathan LaChance, and I'm one of the crew chiefs on the photo crew, and this is my 4th year as a crew chief and my 7th year overall on the crew. It's always a lot of fun and new challenges every year, so I don't know if we want to necessarily, well, we have an introduction slide, so I'm going to share my screen here. Bear with me. All right, can everybody see that?
I can.
Awesome. All right, so you should be seeing a slide there that says welcome. If you're in a room, that would be up for a really long time, but we're not, so there you go. So welcome to the crew. If you don't know, the photo crew was established in 2008. It's we feel like probably one of the largest of its kind, and certainly one of the more unique in that we cover basically 3 really big festivals all at once, more or less. So it's a very unique experience and one that we, as volunteers, keep coming back for time and again. So it's a pretty awesome thing. So just as a quick means of introductions, from South by Southwest, we have Jamie Miller, who is our compadre and our primary contact at South by Southwest. I would say wave hello to Jamie, but I guess my screen is the only thing you'll see. But you'll see more Jamie here in a little bit. We've got Carrie, who's the volunteer coordinator, helps us with all the various sort of housekeeping logistical things. From a crew chief's perspective, we've got Rita, myself, Earl, Maggie, Rob, and Chris. And then shift leads who help us during the festival with check-ins and that sort of thing is Regina, who's our lead, Carl, Amy, Yumi, Carla, and Eric. And everybody that's either a crew chief or a shift lead have all shot for the photo crew at one time or another. So, sometimes you kill my ringtone over here. It will not keep binging at us. All right. Let's see. So, for returners, this is going to be new information. If you're new to the crew this year, this will just be normal for you. But this year we're changing some things up in the way we do check-ins, and we'll talk more about that as we go through. This year, that's new for us is social media opportunities, and that there's going to be a social media component to some of the assignments that we have. Let's see. There's some new editing guidelines. There's also this year we're going to be offering the option of turning in photos online, which we've never done before. It's always been on a flash drive. So that's new and exciting that we're catching up to the modern cloud era. And then lastly, our home base during the festival is going to be at the Hyatt Place, which I'll show you here. Real quickly, this is our shirts for this year. We started the shirts last year. It was a big success. We don't wear the same shirts as the rest of the volunteers for the festival because they sort of tend to stand out when we're in the front of a venue or shooting in front of a panel. We want to kind of be as low-key as possible. So these are our shirts that identify us. A little 30-year logo on there, which is pretty awesome. So our new home for 2016 is going to be at the Hyatt Place, and as you can see from our trusty little map here, it is in between Third and Second Street in Brazos and San Jacinto. The entrance is right there on Third Street. That's right down here. This is Third Street. And as you can see, it's right in between the JW Marriott and the Convention Center, a few blocks away from Sixth Street. Much more centrally located spot for us this year, which is great. Um, so if I could just ask who the rest of my crew chiefs and folks, if you guys could maybe mute mics, because I think somebody leaning on their mic a little bit, that would be awesome. Really appreciate that. Let's see. So we'll be in meeting room 1 in the Hyatt Place. That's as you're walking into the lobby. It's off to the left there. The room will be open from 8 a.m. till midnight every single day during South by Southwest. This room is a little bit smaller than what we had last year. Last year we were sharing it with the sponsor photography team and the folks from Wire Image. This year it will only be the Wire Image team. Those guys are kind of ninjas. They're in and out. We hardly ever see them. So we think that the room is still going to be a good size for the way we use it. But do make sure that you're kind of being quiet inside the room. There are folks going to be working in there pretty much at all times. You're welcome to store things in the room, but do so at your own risk, and I can't really recommend it. I feel like even now, being a little bit more centrally located, there's going to be a lot more foot traffic in and out of this hotel. I don't think it's a real good idea to leave your stuff in there. So you can if you want to, but do be aware it's at your own risk. And one thing that's really important this year, more so than last year, because last year we were at the Hilton Garden Inn and we were sort of, I won't say ostracized, but we were kind of far and away from everything else that was going on. It didn't really matter if we were loud or goofy or anything like that, but this year obviously we're right in the hotel lobby pretty much, and so we're asking that everybody just be a good citizen, be respectful of the guests and the hotel staff. The hotel has asked that if you're hanging out in the lobby, buy something. There's a coffee bar in the lobby there. There's a bar in the lobby. So there's opportunities to purchase stuff and just represent the crew well. We're not the only people, the only crew taking up space in this hotel during South by. So we want to make sure that we're the reason why they want to have us back again and again. So. And Earl and you guys, if there are questions, I need to stop and recover something. I can't see squat, so you guys are gonna have to just holler out and let me know. So
I'm watching questions. You can post them from the Q&A. There's a Q&A button on your screen there. Then you can post questions there, and we'll get to them as appropriate.
That's right. You guys feel free to holler out with the questions there. We don't do Google Hangouts on air very often, if you can't tell. So as if we're gonna kind of winging it as we go here. So I'm gonna just go over a couple things about how to prepare, and Rita's gonna go into some more detail about during the festival and sort of what to do during the festival and how to shoot and all that good stuff. But before your first shifts, the first thing you're gonna want to do, and you're gonna want to do it right this minute, is put this phone number into your phone. This 956 number is a Google Voice number. Hence the 956 is just a random area code that they gave us, but the number spells out 3200 ISO. So in case you're lost and can't remember, if you can remember 956 3200 ISO, you're in good shape. Once our registrations are all processed, you'll get an email from South by Southwest Registration saying that you're registered for the festival. Once you get that, you can go and upload your headshot to social.southbysouthwest.com. You're definitely going to want to do this because if you don't, you'll have your photo taken in the registration area, and it will basically be a blob of you and a bunch of lights over your shoulders and your head. So you don't want that. So once you get that email from registration, you'll be free to go and upload your own headshot, which would be nice. You'll be picking up a badge in the main registration area, not Volunteer Central. This was new last year and it caused a lot of confusion, but because our badges are essentially registrant badges, they're not volunteer badges, you'll need to pick them up in the main registration area. That's in Exhibit Hall 5, and as you can see in this trusty little map here, Exhibit Hall 5 is up on the corner of 4th and Red River. So if you're planning on marching over there from some direction, that's where you're going to want to end up. But again, do not go to Volunteer Central. They will not know who you are, or it will be much tears and consternation until you figure it out. So make sure you go to registration. Um, Platinum and Gold badges can pick up their goodies starting on Thursday the 10th from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Music, the earliest I believe you can pick it up is on Monday the 14th, and then again, obviously on Tuesday and every day thereafter from 9 to 6. I think Mondays is 9 to 6, Tuesday maybe later on the hours, but if you check the main registration hall times, that's the times that are applicable for you. Once you get your badge, you're going to want to get your camera tagged. This is a very, very critical step because if you go to a venue without your tag, you'll get told to put your camera away, and that sort of defeats the purpose. So you'll go, there's an area, it'll say press on it. You'll go take your camera over there. They'll check your name off the list and hand you a camera tag. You'll also, before your first shift, want to swing by the headquarters are there at the Hyatt Place and pick up your photo crew shirts. You'll get 2 because you'll want to have that for your first shift. All right, so one thing that's new this year during the festival is our check-in protocol, if you will, or procedure. It used to be that you had to check in at one given time for each shift. Morning shifts, you check in at 9, or between 9 and 9:30, regardless of when your first assignment was. So you'd check in at 9:30, and some people had to wait until 3 when their first assignment was, and that was not real efficient use of time. So this year we're changing that, and we're asking everybody to check in at least 1 hour before your first assignment. So if your first assignment's at 11 o'clock in the morning, you need to check in by 10 o'clock, no later than 10. We think that this is going to be a lot easier for everybody to remember. You got a lot of cheers and hand claps at the meeting on Saturday, so I trust that at least the returners can appreciate that this is a pretty cool thing. This also means that basically you can check in whenever you want. If you have an evening shift, you don't have to wait until 5 o'clock or whatever to come check in. You can check in earlier than that if you want to. So hopefully that makes it easier to get in and out and parking and everything else. So there again, you have our hotline. In case you didn't get it the first time, make sure you got it in your phone. That hotline, that number essentially will be sort of like the lifeline during the festival. If for any reason we need to get in touch with you, that's the number that'll be calling you, texting you. So when you see that come across, you'll know. I'm not going to get too much into the badge deactivation and all that good stuff. We'll talk more about that. So during the festival, number one question probably is, how do we get our assignments, and when will we know what we're shooting? Assignments will be mailed to you every single day. Usually get it 24 hours or so before your first assignment. Don't freak out if you've got assignments in the morning and they haven't been emailed even sometimes into the late evening. If that's happening, we'll let you know. But things change and shift around, and it sometimes causes a big ripple that we have to go back and fix with our assignments. So typically you're not going to see those assignments before the day before your assignment. That's usually when those emails will come out. That said, check your email early and often. That is sort of the lifeline for assignments and any kind of changes or whatnot that's going to be coming out to you. So the crew phone number is the way to go for real time. Any sort of written communication is going to come through email. You'll see some stuff on Facebook too. If you, for those of you who have joined the Facebook group, that is not an official communication channel though. So if it's official, it'll come to you via email. And that's because not everybody's in the Facebook group, so we can't count on that to be the sole way of communicating. If you are not in the Facebook group and you would like to be, and we strongly encourage everybody to be in it because it's awesome, and you did not get an invite, let us know. You can either hop into the Q&A right now and let us know that you never got an invite, or send us an email. Just South by Southwest Photo Crew, SXW Photo Crew at gmail.com. It's hard to say. So for your assignments, we encourage everyone to show up early, especially music. Music is really tricky. We don't always have any sort of special. You can't count on any sort of special treatment. Even though we're on the photo crew, a lot of the venues don't let anybody at all in before they open the doors. So it's a good idea to show up as early as you possibly can. Make sure you're right up in the front to get the spot you need to get the shots you need to get. So when you're adding your assignments, get the required shots and then be creative. We're just going to go into more detail on all this good stuff here. Capture atmosphere and spontaneous moments when you're not on assignments. To me, it's one of the most fun stuff you can do is shooting just the craziness that goes on all around during South by. And we want to see those shots too. As far as how many assignments per shift, the target or sort of the maximum that we shoot for basically anything during the day is 3. If you're shooting film stuff, 3 to 5, and then music showcases, it's 1 because you're camped out at one venue for the whole night because we want all of the acts at that venue that night shot. That can be flexible, so, but that's generally true for all that. After the festival, photos are due March the 30th. There are 2 ways to turn in this year. There's through the traditional flash drive means, which you can, when you get to the festival, we can hand you a flash drive that you can then fill up with all your good photos and turn them in. We're also offering an online through Google Drive option this year. More details on that will be forthcoming as the festival moves along and we get closer to the turn-in time. Of course, for post-processing, we highly recommend Adobe Lightroom if you have not already gotten on that train. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some things you don't want to do while you're at the festival. You're going to want to avoid off-limit areas. That's green rooms at films. Green rooms are pretty much a no-go for almost anybody, not just us. You're going to want to avoid the press suite in the convention center because we are not press. That's for all the actual newspaper and press folks. Unless you're assigned, photo pits are also off limits, and this is one that gets people kind of, wow, why is that? And the reason is that we can't be filling photo pits up with photo crew members that aren't on assignment because it gets in the way of everybody else that's there, all the other photographers that are there. It's actually a big no-no. So if you're not assigned to a venue in the photo pit, don't let us catch you in the photo pit. That'll get you in trouble. That's true for music panels and keynotes. There's only a handful of venues that have a photo pit, so it's not like it's every single place that this is going to be an issue. It's just some of the larger ones like Stubbs and Gatsby and Hype Hotel and some of these places. It's a very controlled environment there. So if you're not on assignment, we ask you that you don't show up in the photo pit. It could get you in a lot of trouble. Also, unless you're assigned red carpets and or step and repeat photo ops, if you're not familiar, these are we get the banner behind and people stop and give the smile and all that good stuff. If you're not assigned to those, don't be there either because that's another place where there's high traffic and we don't want to essentially crowd it up with people who are not on assignment. All right, so seriously, things that'll get you kicked out of the crew without really much of a second thought is flaking a shift, meaning you don't show up and you don't communicate. Coming down with the flu during music, this actually happens quite a bit, where it's like suddenly Saturday, oh, I'm not feeling good, because people want to go shoot their own stuff. That's not cool. Just not being a good citizen of South by Southwest. This would mean being a jerk to people at the venues. I think you could think of lots of ways you could not be a good citizen. Don't do those things. Another big thing is don't swap your assignments with another photographer. This is super, super important, especially now after the events of 2014. If you don't know, some Yahoo drove down Red River and ended up killing people. We found ourselves trying to track people down by cell phones because we knew where they were. It's super, super important that we know where you are. So if we think that you're going to be at a certain assignment, we need to know that that's where you are. So that's key. Also, if you switch with somebody else, your photos may never get published because when they go looking for photos of a certain act, they know who was assigned to them. If they don't see if they go looking through that person and that those acts aren't there, then those photos aren't going to be published. So don't swap your assignments. If there's something going on that you have to swap or whatever, come talk to a shift lead, come talk to a crew chief. Also, don't be out of touch when you're on duty because that's just common sense, I think. Pay attention to your phone, be responsive to texts and phone calls. And the worst thing you could possibly do, and this is all said and done, is to not turn in your photos, because that's really the gig. We get to do all this cool stuff and see all this cool stuff, and the trade-off is that we hand over badass photos. So that's not going to be an issue. We had 100% last year. We expect to see 100% this year too. During the festival, we as crew chiefs may pull you aside and just ask to see what you're shooting. don't be offended by that in any way. We want to help you get published. We want to maybe answer any questions that you may have. If there's any issues that you're coming up against, you're like, man, I just really struggle with this certain this situation. We want to be able to help you with that. So don't. We're asking everybody, so don't be offended if we ask you. And certainly, if you feel like you'd like some extra help, you can come right on by the photo crew headquarters and just ask to talk to one of the crew chiefs on duty. We're more than happy to sit down with you and answer any questions. I mean, really, we want you to come away from this event, like 10x the photographer that you were when you came in. And I think pretty much everybody, well, I think I can say this, that most everybody that comes through and participates in the crew comes away a much better photographer. So that's our goal, is to help you guys, kind of get to the level you want to get to. So help us help you. All right. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Jamie and let Jamie share her screen. I'm going to unshare mine somehow. Are there any questions or comments or concerns or anything before we move forward? Earl, do we have anything we need to touch base on?
Nope, not yet. Except we need that automatic unmute, so it unmutes automatically when I talk.
I'm sure Google's working on that right now.
All right, let me get these slides up. Okay. Well, that's not all what I wanted to do. Let me try this again. I'm Jamie Miller, and I am the senior designer and the photography supervisor here at the lovely South by Southwest. I am going to explain to you today a little bit about the kind of photos that we're looking for at South by. This year we're going to call it the wow factor. That's pretty much what we're looking for this year. Some photos that make you go wow. There are all kinds of moments that can be a wow moment. Anytime speakers engage with the audience member, when the audience laughs, when a band is really absolutely into their performance, when a director has just shown his work to the world for the first time. These are all incredible things to take pictures of. But we also want to see the reaction as well as the action that's on whatever stage you're shooting. That look on the audience member's face when the speaker makes a joke and everybody laughs. Or registrants that are just as into a band's performance as the band is into it. Registrants who are making connections anywhere in the halls, in sessions, at parties, in lines, at showcases. South by Southwest is about bringing creative people together to further their endeavors, and so much of that is done through networking. If you look at an image and you think, wow, a lot of times you're going to see the focal point, the action at the focal point of that image. You're going to see great composition. You're going to see that it's maybe been enhanced through editing and cropping, but it's always going to tell a story. There will always be a narrative. Photos, they start out with a good definitive moment, and then they just get better. Some keywords to keep in mind when you're looking around at the action and are trying to capture what we're looking for. We want to see energetic things. We want high action. We want excitement, happiness and laughter, engagement, networking, people interacting. As far as composition is concerned, we are interested in things with a very distinct focal point, with action at that focal point. A real nice depth of field. The rule of thirds. The rule of thirds is always your friend. it should be sort of how you look at the world when you look through your lens. We prefer horizontal over vertical. If you do shoot vertical, you're probably going to crop it to be horizontal. Most everything that we publish, because most of what we publish is on the web and through social media, is horizontal in nature. Wide shots are great. Getting close to your subject is good, but also being able to see the subject but then see the rest of the scene, that is also very important. Good strong images, good composition. It is okay to pose people. If you are going through our list of atmosphere wants and you see something that's, people using technology, that would be somebody looking at their phone or looking at their tablet, you can absolutely pose people. You can absolutely ask people and pose people, not against posing. Artistic photos are good too. We are doing more into artistic photos than we have been in the past. So those are good with us. We would like to see nice colorful shots. I realize some of the panel rooms are kind of drab. That's okay. We still need those photos as well. Some key points, things to take into account for your shots. We want to see people wearing badges. We are still a B2B conference. This is a place where industry comes together. So it does have a consumer element, but if you have the opportunity to shoot somebody having fun, hanging out, networking with somebody else and they have on a badge, those are the people that we want to see. We want to show what you as a registrant, what your experience can be at South by Southwest. It's always nice to have good weather in the shot. Apparently, I think there's going to be some good weather. Hopefully, I haven't just jinxed that. But whenever you can show that it is a beautiful day, that is also good. If you are around any kind of Austin-centric landmarks, there are a lot of murals up downtown, lots of public art. That kind of thing is good to see. Part of the appeal of South by Southwest is that it happens in Austin, so we like to showcase the city when we can. As far as crowds go, crowds should sort of be a background. Crowds should not be the focal point. It's whatever the action is that's happening within the crowd is what's important. Then there is, we would definitely like for things to be like super high energy as well. All right, now they're telling me that nobody can see any of my slides as I'm going through them. Is that true for everybody? If y'all can post in the questions and tell me if you've been able to see any of these slides.
Yeah, no, it's looking like it's just the first there. Hey, now it just changed. I think you can do Control or Command L should give you the full screen.
That's where I've been. What do you see now?
Oh, we just see the whole window with all the various goodness.
We see the text the slide that says narrative versus textual image.
Yeah, it's just giving you the window view, though, not the full screen.
Well, that's what we're going to have to keep with because it's not going to. It doesn't work.
Right.
Can everybody still see? Like, is it
Yes.
okay? Are y'all fine with this?
Yep.
All right. Sorry. So narrative versus textual images. I think that this is a good way to kind of break up what you're shooting. We need both. A narrative image is going to be something that just kind of tells that story on its own. It often involves, someone's face. There are other important elements to that. There are they're easy. It's easy to tell a story with a narrative image. And these are some examples of what we would think of as a narrative image. These are more textural images. So these aren't going to have that super primary focal point. They're really flexible. They kind of convey the mood. They are, a lot of times, a textual image is going to have a better, it's better to put text around or on top of. Our website is going to change a little bit next year. It's going to be very photo heavy, and we will be using a lot more images than we have in the past. And many of those are going to have text on them. So this is another time when that rule of thirds is really going to come in handy. And when we're going to look for both narrative and textual images. Oops. Here are some examples of some cool photos that we have gotten in the past. This first one at the top, where these gentlemen are obviously totally connecting, it has a very distinct focal point. There's interaction. These are badged registrants. You can see their lanyards. That's a super cool shot. There's room around the outside if we want to put text. The second shot on the page is very colorful. There's obviously some action going on. She's pointing at the screen. She's smiling. There's a nice, it's kind of artistic. There's a little bit of an angle there. That's a really cool image. This top image, it would definitely be one that would be considered textural. It's got this really nice distinct focal point. It's something that everybody can relate to. Who doesn't put their phone up in the air during a show to get that shot? It's also great. We'll be able to put words around it if necessary. The other photo on this page are people shaking hands like they've just done a deal. How more perfect is that? There's also this wonderful yellow background. They're smiling. They're very happy. It's very colorful. That's a great shot. That's something that we would definitely use. This is the top shot here is from a keynote last year. She graciously wore that lovely deep red shirt to go with the deep red color of Interactive, which was very nice of her. It makes for a really cool photo. The fact that she only takes up part of the image makes it a little bit more interesting and dramatic. Not your typical speaker shot where someone just stands behind the podium. There are plenty of those, but this is a really good and fun one. The second one on the page, that is probably posed, which is pretty cute with everybody in their various head and handstands out on the Four Seasons lawn where NBC Sports often has an activation. Posed, textural, it's really fun, really cute. That kind of stuff really kind of tells that story. Another good storytelling photo where you can see the focal point is definitely the screen, but then you can very easily see the two people in the bottom left that are obviously watching that screen. This is definitely part of the registrant's experience when they are watching a show, when they're watching a movie in the theater. This is actually the build-out for the Vimeo Theater in the Convention Center. The second one on this page, that's Rick Linklater talking about something important, obviously, with that look on his face. There's action. He's obviously moving his hands. Lewis Black is in the background. He is. There's that nice depth of field there, so you can feel what that's like on the stage. that's a lovely photo. Obviously, rule of thirds in play there. This I would also consider sort of a textural photo, even though it is of people and you can really see their faces. A fun, happy crowd that is laughing and enjoying themselves. They also have badges on, so these are obviously registrants. I'm pretty sure that this has also been taken in the Vimeo theater. That's always, it's always great to have shots of people engaged in what they're watching and enjoying what they're watching. This second photo down, that's Rashida Jones and Steve Carell and some other folks premiering an episodic last year. She's obviously the focal point there, but there's really nice depth of field. She's smiling and happy. That's a really lovely shot of a film or TV Q&A. This is the top photo was a Mazda activation. It is a lot of people took a lot of selfies with that big SXSW last year. These guys, they are obviously not registrants. They look a little young to be registrants, but they are obviously having a great time. We do a lot of free programming for locals, so I think that this is a great shot of a couple of local kids out enjoying the free part of South by Southwest. The second one down is one of these moments that you just run into sometimes. This happened to be the Korean DJ superstar named Hitchhiker. He was coming to register at in registration. He was coming to get his badge, but he came in character, which was absolutely awesome. He came to register just like a normal person, but he happened to be kind of a robot. Those kind of things are really, really great to capture. If you see something like that on the street, it is absolutely worth stopping for a moment and capturing it. If you had been on the street on 6th Street when Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart were walking around with a boombox, kind of accosting people before they premiered Get Hard here last year, that would have been a super fun thing to take pictures of, and we would have loved to have had more pictures of that. So when you see stuff like that, it's absolutely worth taking a moment and capturing some shots. Top picture, the gorilla finally caught the banana. This is fun. This is a fun action shot. It is maybe not necessarily everything that we would want, like something that we would post regularly, but it positively it's a hilarious photo. And in our first meeting this past weekend that we had at the convention center when we gave this presentation, the photographer was in the room, and he told us that this was posed, that he asked the gorilla to go catch the banana, and got a whole series of shots that were absolutely hysterical. So we absolutely love this kind of stuff. The second shot down, this is a good, obviously a distinct focal point, right in the middle, which is also fine. There's a nice filter that's been applied to this that makes it, I don't know, it makes it look really cool. There's definitely a crowd, but the crowd isn't the focal point. The fact that they're all reaching up to the artist is very compelling. Another textural shot, a really, really lovely textural shot with the reserved chairs at, I assume this is the Paramount Theater. Talk about something that tells a story. Even a textural photo can tell a story. This is definitely something that we use quite often. Definitely a shot that we really love. The second shot down is kind of a somber moment and really kind of neat the way that it's been treated. It's got that distinct focal point again. It's got really nice color, but it's not super bright color. it's appropriate for that moment and that mood. The top photo, talk about being at the right place at the right time and framing your shot perfectly. I have no idea how this one came about, but it's very, very cool. Again, that right place, right time is whenever you feel like you are in that moment, it is important to take advantage of it. Definitely very bright, obviously fireworks, very energetic. And then the last photo there is definitely a wow moment. I'm not sure how many times you see a couple of Ninja Turtles with signs in an elevator, but I think anytime that you do, you should take a picture of it. That kind of fun stuff. There we have a gaming convention as part of our second weekend. So there's a lot of people do cosplay during that time, which I assume that's what these guys are. But that kind of stuff is very cool, and we definitely like to have those shots. Here's an example of how photos will be treated on the website as we go forward and move to a more photo-heavy situation. You can see here that we are going to be laying text over shots. On the first one, obviously, there's a great space for that. Same with the second. On the third shot, that was just cropped in a little bit, and we added a colored block, which is definitely something that we will do in the future. But that rule of thirds, again, and good composition definitely plays into the kind of shots that we choose, and definitely the shots that we'll choose going forward. So new for 2016, we have some things that are new. We have some social media opportunities. We want to encourage some enhanced editing as well as cropping. Social media assignments, this is a brand new thing. We are being tasked with supplying at SXSW with photos of specific events as they happen. You will use your phone to do this. We are going to ask you to be that guy in that picture from before that's holding up their phone to get a shot. A little quick disclaimer, you will not be asked to capture social media content for every assignment. There are actually very few assignments that come with this additional social media component. Social media coverage has been determined ahead of time by our content team. It does not replace what we do already, which is an optional daily uploads of atmosphere photos, which you'll get an email about that. So your social media image capture workflow, should you be called upon to take photos with your phone of a particular assignment, that is what you will do. You will take photos with your phone. When you are done, you will choose a few good ones, and then you will text them to the social media team. Will be just that simple. Well, almost that simple. There will be one central number to text the photos to. And you will capture your social media photos after you've gotten your regular shots at the end of your allotted time for shooting. For panels, that's often the first 5 minutes in the front. For showcases, it's generally the first 3 songs. So within that time, you'll need to get your shots with your regular camera and then take a few with your phone. It is going to be a timely thing. The point is to message those photos out kind of as much in the moment as possible. So it will need to be texted within like the first 15 or 20 minutes of an event. If you do get an assignment that has a social media component, we will go over everything that you need to do, all on-the-spot training and instructions at the photo crew headquarters room. So yeah, general etiquette, we all complain about that guy in the front row holding up his cell phone blocking the view. And yes, you're kind of going to be called upon to be that guy. But that is okay. You're doing your job. You will have because of your photo crew t-shirt, you will be very identifiable as part of the photo crew. And many of the people who are running the panel rooms and who are running the music showcases, they're all going to know that you are there doing your job, and that phone, those social media photos are part of that job. Just be mindful of the time that you spend, with your photo in the air. Get the shots, but just be mindful. Enhanced editing, yay! In the past, we've said that we wanted stylistic editing to be kept to a minimum. Not this year. We are more than happy for you guys to enjoy the post-processing process. Give us all your post-processing goodness. Within reason. So we're not looking for every single photo to be hyper-enhanced. What we're looking for is for you to use post-processing as a tool to kind of enhance the excitement and energy and mood of a photo. If it's a fun, bright, colorful kind of room, then if you need to increase, saturation in that situation to convey that mood, then that's completely appropriate. So yes, within reason, bright and colorful, high contrast, high saturation, post-processing that sets the mood, and then sort of filters, but absolutely in moderation. Here's another shot of that particular show where it was almost, the treatment is almost black and white with casts of color. It was a somber song and kind of a somber moment, and so that treatment really fits that particular moment. Same with the photo below. That's Leon Bridges playing at one of the churches. I'm not sure which one that is, probably Central Presbyterian. That is a fun, high energy situation, and it got a really cool treatment being shot from the floor, and having the color bumped up like that made perfect sense. Here's another at the top, that's Stubbs, shot from the back. It's a great crowd shot. It's lovely to see this big, beautiful the stage and see everybody. It's very purple, which is really pretty. It's a great looking shot. The shot at the bottom is of a party with some really weird chairs, and they've obviously got a lot of lights going on, but that's also been enhanced. It's a nice wide shot as well, which are appreciated. Here's some before and after of how they go, how shots go from just being okay to really standing out using post-processing. And Earl will go into this more when he talks about working in Lightroom. Even more shots. You'll notice that the bottom one had some hands over there on the right-hand side, but with a little bit of cropping, the photo has much better composition. Here we go, post-processing gone too far. So I'm not totally against HDR, but if your shots start looking like real estate photos, that's not good. If you have like a comically obvious filter, does anybody remember Kelvin in Instagram? That was a really awful filter. Nobody ever used it. It was terrible. And then overlaid textures. None of those things are going to work. On to cropping. So in the past, we've said that we don't want you to crop photos. We have preferred to crop them ourselves, mostly because we had a lot of different ways that we could crop them, because we had a lot of different ways that we were using them. The ways that we use them now are much more streamlined. So we would like for you to use your artistic eye when you're processing your images, and we encourage you to crop for composition. Within reason, all things within reason. Crop to improve your composition. Crop to change the orientation of your photo. You get a really super cool vertical shot, but you're like, crap, they don't use a lot of verticals. How can I crop this to be horizontal? Use a 4:3 ratio on all of your cropping. And always leave a little bit of breathing room. Tight crops, a lot of times they're not good. If we're using something for print, maybe we want that photo to bleed off of the page, so when the printer trims the page, the photo goes all the way to the edge. If you crop too close and there's nothing to bleed off of the edge of the paper, we're probably not going to end up being able to use that photo. Here are some examples of some nice cropping processing as well. This first photo started out kind of far away and very dark, but it got processed, it got cropped, and it got rotated, which made for a better shot. This guy at the bottom here, they were some really cool trophies for a particular awards event. And those have been cropped a little bit better. Here's a good example of a vertical photo that was cropped horizontally and was published on the internet because the internet definitely likes a good horizontal photo. And then on the right, that's a too close, too tight crop. You've got the microphone coming out of nowhere, and his arm is partially cut off, and it's just definitely not good composition. Here's another shot that was started out as vertical of the wonderful Neil deGrasse Tyson, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. He started out as vertical. He was cropped to horizontal, which made for a better shot and easier for us to use. Then he was cropped much too close and much too tight. What on earth is going on? What is that weird little thing at the bottom? Not good composition. So cropping gone too far. Cropping gone too far is cropping that's too tight. If in doubt, leave more space. If we need to crop a little bit more, we're completely fine to do that. Another way that cropping goes too far, if it's kind of too radical, if it renders the image too abstract. We still want to know, we want it to be very obvious what's going on. Sometimes you can get a little artistic with crops. Keep in mind, that narrative telling a story photo that tells the story easily. And that's it for me and my presentation. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, let us know. This we'll be sending this out in some way. It will probably be posted to the website, so you can download this and look at it at your leisure.
We have a few questions.
Oh, here.
The first one is just that will they get the slides, and you'll get a link to where the slides and some other information, cheat sheets and stuff, will be available to you for download and printing or whatever. So that's coming shortly. Also, there's a question: are we still primarily shooting color images, or are you opposed? Can we turn in black and white?
Color images.
Yeah.
Color images, please. No black and white.
And the other question is about shifts versus assignments. It says if I'm scheduled to work at 9 a.m., but the meeting room opens at 8, can I be there at 8? And still check in early. But right now, all you have is your shifts, so you'll know what days you're working. You have to check in to our room an hour at least before your first assignment, and you won't get your assignments until the day before your shift. So typically, if your shift starts at 9 a.m., that means you won't have an assignment until 10 o'clock or even later. So that check-in time is normally built into your shift. So if the first assignments are at 10 o'clock, we normally will start your shift at 9. But your shift might not start till 11, your assignment might not start until 11 or 12 might be your first assignment. So then you could wait till 10 o'clock to check in for an 11 o'clock assignment. So that's always confusing. So is that more clear?
One way to think of it is nobody knows when their check-in time is yet.
Right.
And you won't until the day before your first assignment.
Right. You just all you have is a shift, so you know what days to be prepared to work, but you don't know when you have to show up or when you'll get off yet during that shift. You'll be working sometime within that shift period, but we don't know what the hours are within that shift.
Yeah, and then just to get to the point of the question is, what if your first assignment was at 9, and we don't open the room until 8? I don't think that's going to be an issue this year. There shouldn't be any sort of overlap like that, and if there is, we'll let you know how to deal with that.
Yeah, and sometimes you might have an assignment to shoot breakfast at 8 o'clock or something, and we'll give you special instructions about how to check in or where to go or what to do. It'll be on your assignment sheet if there's something odd like that.
You'll have to drop by Earl's house with coffee and breakfast.
Exactly.
Donuts.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. So keep those questions coming.
Cool.
And Rita is up next, I think.
Hello. So on my side, I still see Jamie's slide.
Yeah, I'm about to end.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Okay, so like Jonathan said in the beginning, we don't do this live very often, so it's a little bit clunky. How do I pull up to share my screen, Jonathan?
On your left-hand side of your screen there, you'll have a few different
Wait, it
options.
says screen share?
It's the one that says screen share, yes.
Imagine that. Okay. Hey, Chris, you're going to join me in on this one?
Yeah, sure. I'm ready to go.
Okay, cool. So before I screen share, so people can see our faces, you're Chris. I don't know if you're up, if everyone sees you or not, but go ahead and talk for a second so your screen pops up.
Oh, hello, everybody. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. And
Alrighty.
I'm Rita. I've been on the crew for, I don't know, since 2010 or so I guess this is my 6th year. And been a crew chief for most of that time. But Chris and I are going to go over essentially what it means to shoot the festival, some basic information for those of you that have already been on the crew. This will be very redundant, but a good refresher. There isn't a whole lot that's new for you guys, but we appreciate you sitting through it. And anybody that's new, please feel free to ask questions, and we'll address those at the end. Okay, so I'm going to put on the little screen share. Let's see, share. Okay, full screen. All right, can you guys see that?
Yep.
All right, cool. So we got a lot to cover. We're only going to try and do this in about 10-15 minutes. All of you will be given assignments that will include music panels and shows, which are the full showcases. Music panels are usually things that are at the convention center, and it's a talk or conversation with or something like that. The shows are the actual concerts. The interactive panels and events. Some of the events may be parties or various just photo opportunities of crazy things that may be happening. The film photo ops, which are also called step and repeats. If you hear those two things, they're kind of interchangeable on your assignment sheet, though. I believe it will actually say photo op, but that means you're going to go and look for one of those step and repeat banners that has the South by Southwest logo on it, and you'll be photographing someone in front of that. Also with films, you'll be doing some Q&As potentially, which means after a film screening, you'll go there and listen to the director and the actors and other people that were involved with the film that are there for their screening, and take photos of them doing all that. And then there's also going to be assignments that will be just straight up atmosphere. So you may get something that says, just shoot atmosphere, and we'll be asking you to go around and get as creative as you can and have fun, and take all the tips that Jamie just gave you and how to make some really interesting shots of just what's happening at the festival. Your general approach to your assignments is, the first thing you're going to want to do is evaluate the shooting conditions. So in either or any of those, types of assignments, as photographers, that's the first thing we're going to be looking at is, what are the shooting conditions? Does someone want to say something?
Yeah, Rita, can you zoom in a little bit? They're having trouble reading the text on their screens.
How do I do that? Better?
That's
Yeah,
better.
much better.
All right.
There you go.
So you're going to want to evaluate the shooting conditions. If you're shooting music, very likely it's going to be low light, probably even bad light, like all red and all blue or purple or something. So you can be comfortable going and talking to the stage manager. When you get there, just make friends with them and let them know that you're the photographer. Just know that they don't have to do you any favors because they're going to be busy and they're going to be, really, really probably stressed out with what they're working on with all the other acts and everything. But the stage managers are South by folks like us, and so you can ask them, hey, can you just give me an idea of what the lights are going to look like tonight? And depending on their ability to be flexible, because sometimes it's the bands that are deciding what lights they want, they can help you out a little bit or at least let you know what you're going to be working with. But when you have that conversation, just, again, be really chill. Like Jonathan said from the beginning, just be a good example. Like I said, they're not necessarily required to help you out. So it's really just something that you're just kind of letting them know you're there and seeing if there's anything at all that they can do. Don't use flash when shooting music, just because all those pictures that Jamie showed us, it's all ambient light. It's really beautiful. You're not going to be able to capture any of that if you're using flash. The only time that we want you to use flash is if the room is literally pitch black. So sometimes I know that a few of us have shot like DJ sets, for example, or something, and they decided to turn the lights off. So, you'll have no choice but to use flash in those situations. When you go in and shoot panels, you can use flash then, but only in the first 5 minutes up front. Again, go in, introduce yourself, let them know that you're their photographer. Ideally do that before, they're too stressed. Like, get there a little early, seek out whoever is in charge of that panel, let them know that you're there, because not everything that South by schedules is photographed. So sometimes they'll know that you're going to be there, but oftentimes they don't. There will be certain events where Jamie and the media team will let us know that there's going to be a PR person there, and that person will be expecting you, but oftentimes they're not. So, they often are really excited when they find out that you're there because they're like, oh, cool, we're important enough to be photographed. So, go and let them know, and let them know you're going to be photographing them for the first 5 minutes with flash, and if that's okay, be sure to turn off the flash after that, and then readjust your settings so that you can get the ambient light in the room. Theater managers is the same thing, just like the subjects for the panels and the photo ops. And music, you're going to want to also arrive early, go introduce yourself to the theater manager. Again, that will be a South by Southwest person. They may or may not be expecting you, but typically with film they are expecting you. So, seek them out and let them know that you're going to be there for the Q&A to photograph at the end of the event. And sometimes they can help you out because those films where they're shown are sometimes super dark. And I have had times when I've been able to ask them to put up like a film set light, so it's kind of like a big spotlight, so that way they can light them up, because those guys aren't thinking with how to make this a great photo. They're just trying to manage, the people. So sometimes they're not even really thinking about that. And so again, you can just say, hey, is there any chance that we could turn up the lights or put a light on them? And they're usually pretty accommodating. When you're on a photo op, meaning that big step and repeat banner, don't be shy. Be cool, like not too pushy, but definitely you want them to look in your lens, and so it's perfectly okay, and you'll see all the other photographers from other publications do the same thing. They'll say, hey, look to your right or look to your left, to get the talent to actually look into your lens. You can get the shots of them also looking and being photographed, and kind of the wide shots of all of the activity on the on the photo op, but you'll still want that shot of them looking in your camera too. And also have a shot list kind of in your mind, and I think Earl is going to be distributing, if he hasn't already, a cheat sheet which will include these things. But just in general, the way usually I approach assignment is, get the close-ups of the panelists, get the panelists interacting, get a shot of the entire room. I kind of start up front and then move around the room to the side, then the back, then the other side, so that way you kind of get nice, good coverage of everything. And like Jamie said too, don't forget to get the reactions from the audience, not just focus on the talent. And lastly, on this little section, be very conscious of yourself when you're shooting. Oftentimes there are people who, you're potentially standing in front of them and you're not aware of it because you're so interested in getting your shot. Stay low, watch where your flash is pointing so that you're not accidentally blinding someone behind you or next to you if you're trying to bounce your flash off of a wall or something. So just be very conscious of how intrusive you're being to the experience of the attendees. If you know how to silence your shutter, definitely a good idea when you're doing that, in a film Q&A, or if you're doing that during any kind of a panel, because it's pretty silent, and that it's just another way to show that you're there. So try and turn that off. Let's see, the next section, shooting tips. You want to take it?
Sure. Okay, so for shooting tips, you're going to want to be definitely shooting in RAW format. That's one of the things that's going to help you in post. But the other thing too is you want to definitely do your best to get it right in camera. A lot of times, making sure that you've got all of your white balance adjusted correctly, your exposure, making sure that you're shooting at the proper shutter speed so that your images are sharp. Another thing would be to definitely step outside of your comfort zone as far as ISO. Start at the higher range and move down as you can. But you definitely want to make sure that you're shooting nice, sharp images. So that would be some really good information to familiarize yourself with. A gray card is going to be a really useful tool in setting your white balance. You also want to make use of a flash modifier or a reflector, or a diffuser of some sort. It'll definitely help you dial in the lighting, especially if you're shooting in step and repeats or in the Q&A situations. You don't want to bounce, or you don't want to count on bouncing, because the ceilings are usually not going to be low enough to take advantage of that. Let's see, you also want to make sure that, like Rita said, that you stage, you can stage images or stage shots. If you see something happening and you missed it, don't be afraid to walk up to the group and say, hey, can I get that shot again? Usually everybody is going to be happy that there's a photographer covering their film or whatever it is. They're going to be happy to comply with your request. The other thing too is be aware of any distracting objects that are going to be in the shot. If there's a trash can, or if there's cups or water bottles on the table that could be distracting, you want to make sure that you try to shoot with all of that in mind. Also, microphones are going to be one of the things that you're going to be having to basically battle against. You always want to make sure that you try to get a photo of your subject without the microphone blocking their face, so be aware of that. Also, if they have a panel name, you want to make sure that you line that up so it's correct, or make sure that it's not misleading or in front of the wrong member of the talent. Let's see. You are going to be working with other photographers from other agencies and other places, so you do want to be aware that they have a job to do, and a lot of times they're going to be seasoned pros. Do your best to work with them and definitely learn from them, because they're going to be doing things in a very professional manner. I can attest to learning a lot from interaction with them. The other thing too is the photo pit is going to be one of the things where you have to be definitely stake out a spot that's going to allow for you to get good images. Don't post up there the whole time just because it's a good spot. A lot of times look around. There might be other people trying to get their shot. It's a good idea to get your shot, as many options as you can, and then move around the room to see if you can capture any of the other angles that are going to present themselves. Let's see here. You're going to be definitely wanting to not take selfies or bother anybody with that. You're going to want to conduct yourself as a professional, and that's just not anything that you want to waste anybody's time with, and it's not going to represent the photo crew in a good way. So definitely no selfies. If you're off duty and you are taking advantage of your perk, you want to take off your photo crew shirt so that you're not going to be representing anybody in any misleading way on that. Let's see. Like Jamie said, we're going to be shooting horizontal. You want to shoot 90% of your stuff horizontal. The only exception is going to be for step and repeats. You're going to want to get a head-to-toe shot of anybody. You definitely want to see if you can get a vertical shot of the actors and actresses. I would refer to South by World magazine. Take a look at the stuff that's published there for some very good examples of that. There's going to be green rooms. You want to stay away from those. You are not allowed in those. There's going to be a media check-in. Do not try to get any special any media access if you are not assigned to it. There's going to be a lot of those, and that's one of the things you should stay away from, the media check-ins and the green rooms. Let's see here. Rita, do you have anything you want to add?
Just to add a little bit to the shooting horizontally, definitely, like Chris said, getting the vertical shot with the head to toe, especially women. They're going to these screenings and they have put together their whole outfit, but also know that South by obviously will go in and crop it as they want in those situations, but just make sure that you give them the option to have a vertical in those, specifically for those photo ops, step and repeat assignments. And then also we have a little note here on, just making sure you have all of your stuff for staying in business. Have your camera and flash batteries on hand. Make sure you have a phone charger. If not even better, a battery pack. Something weird about South by, your phone will die like by noon if you were there. I don't know what it is, but the phones just die, and you will see people all over the place hunting down outlets to plug in their chargers. And so the past number of years actually, Mophie's even had a booth, and it's where everybody goes and buys their battery packs, to add onto their phone. Just be prepared, because especially where your phone's concerned, it is your lifeline to us, and we need to be able to reach you when you are scheduled to be on a shift, because there are times where we may have someone get sick that's on your shift, or we may have someone who there might be some special added assignment that we hear about, and so we need to reach out to people to do things on occasion. And so the way we do that is through text message and phone calls. So please be sure that you are charged up and ready to receive any communication from us. Jamie already went into really, oops, whoa, what happened? Don't know what happened, just a second. Lost my screen. All right. Jamie already went into detail about social media, so we don't need to go into a whole lot of more about that. Other than just don't, if you're given a social media assignment, don't use the bulk of your time shooting just the social media. It's still to be treated as a regular assignment where you're using your regular digital camera and you're focusing on getting all of those great shots for us with that camera. So when you feel confident that you have your shots, then approach it from a phone social media perspective, and just be discreet. Don't be that person in the pit filming the show and getting in the way. Just kind of be a little ninja-like and try and get the shots that you need in order to feel like you have the coverage for social media. But the social media folks aren't going to necessarily want like 30 images from you of that one thing. So it's really just about getting a few key moments and good, some good shots for them. And finally, think like a pro. Don't shoot robotically. Get creative. Jamie has driven that point home, and a number of times. It's something that we really want to see you guys do. If you are not proud of your shot, South by Southwest won't be either, and probably won't be used. So, we've seen when doing all of our reviews of stuff that has gotten turned in the past, and then meeting with the photographers when we do, our little kind of one-on-ones with people. Very often there will be things there, and we'll ask them, hey, so how did this get in here? This isn't really, reflective of the kind of work that you do. And they're like, well, it was kind of boring. It was my third or fourth in a row panel, and so there really wasn't a whole lot to cover. We really need to caution everybody from developing that kind of apathy towards shooting. Try and make it fun as much as you can, and try and treat each assignment as something new and creative, and make sure that you're really proud of everything that you turn in, and that you feel like it's worthy of being used. And of course, if you feel uncertain about any of this, including questions about using your gear, some people are not really comfortable with focusing in a dark room or shooting with purely, crazy LED lights, or even using their flash. Don't hesitate or be shy. We want to help you. We want you to succeed, and we're here for that. So there are no dumb questions, for real. So let us know when you are at all having any kind of hiccups or insecurities about anything. If that happens, there's always going to be crew chiefs around during the festival in our headquarters. And I think that's it. Are there any questions?
There are a couple of questions, and I'll cover them as part of Lightroom because they're kind of related.
Okay.
Hear about that. So I'm going to unshare your slide and
done.
See if I can share mine.
Is it released? And
yeah, I released you. I think we're set.
Okay.
Whoa, wrong way.
Whoa.
Infinity. Infinity.
Yeah. I don't know what makes that. I had that before too.
Yeah, oh, look, it's doing it again. It's awesome.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't crash your computer.
Screen within a screen.
In theory, that's just going on forever. So you better stop it.
You're gonna upset the time continuum.
You don't need that.
Gravity wave.
Why does it do that?
And that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, but it's not really useful though.
I will say thank you for everybody for sticking with us. I know this is a lot of data just coming at you, so appreciate y'all sticking with us.
Yep. Oh well. Is that better now? I can't see because I'm going full
That
screen.
looks better.
Can you see the?
Yeah, I can see Lightroom.
Okay. So it should be just your screen should be filled with Lightroom right now.
Yeah, I'd
I'm
like
not
to.
sure why we have the tunnel effect.
Yeah.
Okay. First thing, we'll start in I'm going to assume everybody uses Lightroom, and everything I'm going to talk about is on the website, so you don't really need to take notes or anything. Plus, you can always watch a replay of this slideshow or this presentation. And I'm going to assume everybody has Lightroom. If you don't, you would have to modify these instructions for whatever program you use. But Lightroom has really become the most widely used program for organizing and editing pictures by professional photographers. And one of the big advantages of Lightroom is that it's a non-destructive editor, unlike Photoshop or some of the others. So any change you make to Lightroom, it's not making that change to your actual original image. It's just saving a list of all the changes you made in a Lightroom database, and it applies those changes when you export the picture. So that makes it really nice to not have to worry about, you can always undo anything at any time in the future. So first thing you'll do when you load out all your pictures somewhere and make a backup copy or two of them, then you start up Lightroom and be in the library module up at the top here. And the first thing you'll want to do is go through all your pictures and pick out the best ones. So I normally do that by just having one hand on the right arrow button, another finger on the one button. So if you press the number one, it'll add 1 star to a picture. Like if I like that picture, and you can go to the full screen mode for that. But if you like that picture, you press a 1 and it flags it with 1 star. You press a 0, it'll turn off that star. You press a 2, it'll make 2 stars. So I just sit there and go right arrow and star, right arrow and star to pick out the pictures that are worth working on. So that's my first pass of which pictures I want to continue working on. So once I've gone through that, which I've already done for this little set, then I would go down here to the bottom for the filters, and I would say only show me the pictures that have 1 star. So now I don't have to waste time working on all the other stuff that's not, that I didn't think was worthy. So then I'm going to go through, I'm going to just pick one picture here that's been doctored to have some typical problems you see. So let's get to that picture. We will switch to the development mode, and it goes full screen, and you can see a few things about this picture. Now, some questions we had before. Yes, South by likes to see the South by banners or logos or whatever in your pictures, but you don't want to take a picture of a South by banner that just happens to have a person stuck over in the corner. So, like in this picture, for example, I purposely stood to the left of the stage because I knew the banner was on the right of the stage, so I could have the banner appearing naturally in some of these pictures. So they do like the banner, but don't ruin your picture, in other words, just so you can get the banner in. The other thing is, we'll talk about cropping in a minute. So this picture, to start with, is kind of green. So what I want to do after you make your picks, we want to start making some adjustments to this picture, and you want to normally do them in the order I'm going to tell you, which also corresponds pretty much to the order they are in Lightroom. So we're going to go over here first. I want to fix the white balance some. So I'm going to typically grab this eyedropper over here in the treatment. The WB stands for white balance. I'm going to drag this over, and I want to find something either white or black in the photo. And I find with theater pictures, with things like this where you have all kinds of weird lighting and colored lights and stuff, you'll usually get better results if you grab something that you know is black. So for example, we could grab this speaker case back here, or whatever it is, this amp or whatever that we know is black. or if we knew his guitar or pants were black, we could grab that. Or a lot of times you want to grab something that has the same light falling on it as the person. We care about this guy here. We don't care about a lot of the other junk. A lot of times you can grab the microphone. The microphone or the stand will typically be black, and that's typically close to your subject and has the same light falling on it. So you can often get a good starting point for your white balance from grabbing that black microphone there. So, and you can't always get the white balance to look normal because it might have been all red, and you'll never be able to reproduce that quite the same way. The camera doesn't see the same way our brain does. After you use the eyedropper, you might want to use this to tweak it a little bit, like to add a little more color, or you might want to turn the tint down to give him a little bit of a tan or something. But that gets a start. So you want to get the white balance adjusted first because that affects your exposure. So the next thing you want to do is adjust the exposure. And you always adjust the exposure by looking at this histogram up in the right-hand corner. And you also have your camera also will give you a histogram, and you should be using that histogram to make sure you're getting the right exposure during your shoots. So the histogram is just a graph that counts how many pixels there are. On the left-hand side will be how many black pixels you have. The right-hand side is how many white pixels you have. So a properly exposed photo will typically touch both ends of the histogram. The curve might be different shapes. Like in this picture, we have a whole lot of black stuff, so you'll see most of the pixels are on the left side nearer the black end. But we can see right here his white shirt is overexposed. There's no detail in that. We've lost some detail there. And if you look up here in the histogram, you'll see that arrow up there is white, meaning you've got some overexposed pixels. If we highlight it with our arrow, with our mouse, you'll see what pixels are overexposed. All that stuff that just turned red, that's the stuff that you've lost all detail. They're way overexposed. They're blown out is what we call it. So you can adjust that with this exposure setting here. I'm going to start just by clicking auto to where Lightroom will take a best guess at what it thinks the best exposure is. And you can see now we've lost most of the stuff on the right. That lump on the right hand side has gone down, so his shirt is more correctly exposed. See, there's much less white there. But Lightroom also, it's not as smart as we are, hopefully. So there's a lot of black in this picture, so we don't really care about the black. We don't need any detail of that. And Lightroom doesn't necessarily know that the black's not important to us. So you typically can't use the auto as your only adjustment. So but I'm going to adjust this. Watch, if I move my exposure over to the right, this is way overexposed. And see how the histogram is going off the edge is going, it's way high. The count of overexposed pixels is way high. So if we move it way to the left edge, we'll be way underexposed. And you'll see there's nothing touching the right edge. The left edge is really high, indicating there's lots of underexposed pixels that have no detail in them. So we want to move it to the right until we just start touching that right-hand edge. And in some cases, you can't do it exactly right because you're going to have some stuff. You can't necessarily get everything exposed, the light and the dark stuff all exposed correctly. You also have these other 4 things that are useful for adjusting just parts of your histogram. The highlights one is you'll often use that and move it to the left to get this, adjust just the highlights. So you'll see it's moving. If you see the area at the top of a histogram, it's kind of about a ½ inch wide there is highlighted. That's the part that this slider is changing. It's only changing the right edge of the diagram and not changing the left edge very much. The shadows only changes the left side of the histogram without changing the right side very much. So you'll often want to bring your shadows out, get a little more detail in the shadows, bring down your highlights so you get a little detail in this white shirt. Because this has got the extremes of very white things and very black things in it. So often, and that's the case, you're going to need to have these highlights and shadows sliders slid back and forth. The whites and blacks do the same thing. So after you adjust the highlights and shadows, you might need to readjust the exposure a little bit to get it looking good somewhere in there. And then on this picture, the blacks, not sure, the slider only adjusts the extreme left edge of the picture. And in this case, we've got a lot of black here, and we don't care about it. So I'm going to slide the black over even more and make that get really black, and that makes our performer here really pop out of that picture. So the next thing I'm going to adjust, the next thing in line, is something we used to tell you not to mess with, but this is the presence. This is some of the stuff Jamie talked about. They like bright colors and things, so you don't normally mess with saturation much. You might want to give a little bit of saturation, but typically not so much. That affects the color of the colors, so to speak. Make sure red's a little redder and all, but vibrance makes the colors brighter or dimmer across the board. So you might add a little vibrance. This picture doesn't have a lot of color in it anyway, but you can add a little vibrance. So you can see, look at this sign in the background. You can see if I pull the bright vibrance down, the green gets less green and less bright. Now that I can bring the green on up. So you might want to give it some vibrance. Typically, that will be somewhere less than 10, somewhere in that neighborhood, to give it, just to make it a little bit more colorful than it really is. The clarity is the most interesting slider you have, and it does some complicated things, but the easiest way I know to explain it is clarity sort of makes dull colors brighter, but doesn't make bright colors brighter. So it can it can make your picture look sharper, and it can give it that extra little pop. So I'll slide into the guy's face here, and you'll see if I move the clarity over, it really kind of makes his face kind of, some of the details maybe you don't want to stand out so much. If you move it way to the left, you often use a little bit negative clarity for portraits because it'll kind of smooth out stuff. So when we move way to the left, it makes him look like he's from outer space or something, so you don't want that. But sometimes with a portrait, like with an old person that has a lot of wrinkles, you can put a little bit of negative clarity. It'll kind of soften their skin a little bit. But a little positive clarity, say is somewhere in the 10 to 20 range, can help give you a little bit more pop to the picture. So that's something you're allowed to play with this year, but keep it reasonable here. We don't want to mess with saturation and stuff. Detail. Let's talk about, this is where you adjust for high ISO. A lot of times we're shooting in the dark. And one of the big problems we see, there's two problems we see commonly in pictures turned in, is people shooting at lower ISO settings on their camera to try and improve the quality. But if you're not careful, if you shoot too low a ISO and that causes you to be underexposed, you're going to make the grain worse. So it's still most important to get the exposure right. So you do not want to lower your ISO if that causes you to have underexposed pictures. There'll be a lot worse grain in an underexposed picture with low ISO than there will be in a high ISO picture that's correctly exposed. So the other thing, if you use too low ISO, if you're using some kind of automatic mode on your camera, what I see is sometimes you'll have pictures turned in that were shot at like 1/10 of a second or 1/8 of a second, and they'll be all blurred. So because in order to get your camera had to go to a really slow shutter speed, and the people are moving, so the picture becomes unusable. So if I have a picture, I can still use it. South by Southwest can still use it. But if the picture is blurred or has so much grain you can't even recognize the people, then it's not usable. You can't fix that. But this is where you'd work on that grain. So once you've got your other stuff set, you can zoom in or look at this exposure right here, this close-up. You want to typically look at some dark, solid area, and you'll watch as you slide this. Mainly the luminance button is what you'll use. You'll see you have a little noise in that black here. It's like little flecks of color or white. And as you slide this over, they'll tend to go away. You slide it too far, though, everything gets real smooth and you lose all the details. So you just have to play with it some. And then you can adjust this detail to give more detail, but then that can make it look weird too. And you can play with your sharpness a little bit. So you'll find, if you look on the website where I have the Lightroom tips page, there are all these things we're talking about. There are links there to articles and videos that will tell you more about it. So there's several videos that are linked to there that'll go into like way more detail about. People have written books about ISO adjusting for noise reduction and stuff. Sometimes some cameras, this camera I'm using doesn't have much color noise, but some cameras you'll have little specks of red or green or something in this colors, and that's where you can use this color slider here to adjust those specifically to smooth out the color noise, not just the general black and white noise. So, and then the other thing is, once you get these things set, so this picture was shot at ISO 1250. So once you get the settings for some typical picture that was shot at a certain ISO, you can come over here to your presets window and click the plus sign, and then you can, I would say, check none, and I would say check noise reduction, and then I could call this my ISO 1250 settings and save that. I click create and save that, and then from then on, whenever I have a picture shot at ISO 1250, I can just go click on this setting here for ISO 1250. You can see I have them set up for 1600, 3200, 6400, whatever. So that saves me a lot of time as a starting point for just adjusting getting just like the auto button did over on exposure. That gives you a starting point for that. And Lightroom is smart enough to remember these settings for each individual camera. If you shoot with several different cameras, you'll want to set these settings for each camera. In fact, it's even smart enough if you tell it if you have two identical cameras, it'll even remember these settings for the serial number of the camera, so that it can, because each camera might have a little bit different settings, so it'll even preserve them for each serial number camera for the same ISO. So when you click ISO 1600, it'll go look up and see what serial number camera was used to shoot this picture and use your saved settings for that specific camera's ISO settings. So, okay. What else have we done? Next thing, talked about that. I don't have my presentation memorized. The next thing is something new. Always before we said you can't crop. This year we're going to let you crop, and we encourage you to crop, in fact, to improve the picture. So we're going to assume you don't do anything crazy with cropping. But one important thing to remember is if you do any cropping, you need to save an original uncropped version of your photo. And with Lightroom, that's not a big deal because everything you do is saved over the history panel. It's, again, remember, Lightroom is not changing the original photo. So if you crop the picture, it will just apply that crop when you export these pictures into JPEGs to turn into to South by. Lightroom will always, you can always go into Lightroom and undo that crop, go back to your original picture. You know, you can go back right here to where the picture was imported and see, like I can reset right now to where that picture was. That's the way it was when we imported it. This is back the way it is right now with all our settings. So this picture is a good example of a simple crop. Like you see these hands just sticking out in the corner. So that's a no-brainer just to go crop those guys out. So and make this a better picture. So you don't have those distracting hands in the way. So and then you can turn it in just like that. Now you also might want to choose, since this guy's kind of facing off the side or something, you might want to choose to make a more radical crop and do something like this. And I still would try to, you want to leave it horizontal and you don't want to cut off hands or heads or instruments and stuff in general. So I don't know that I would turn it in like this, but because that microphone looks kind of funny there and you've lost the sign. But still, there's some pictures where this might be a better, more usable image. And like you saw one in Jamie's examples, it was a vertical image that was cropped to horizontal to make it, more presentable. Another thing you can do in Lightroom, when I'm going to do something radical, like a big crop to something, what I will often do is and you can do it from the development mode, but you just right-click on the picture, and you can say create a virtual copy. This way, now you have two copies of that picture. It didn't make a copy on disk, so you're not wasting disk space. It's just in the Lightroom database. You have two copies with two sets of changes made to it. So we can keep this one with the simple crop. We can go to this picture in development mode, and we can make a radical crop here, or maybe we want to make it, do some weird colors or something like that. So I don't suggest you do that for the stuff you're turning in general, but you might want to, if there was something, weird or something. So I don't like green skin, but let's do it blue or something, whatever. But now we've got the normal picture and the jazzed up picture. They're both there. You can export both of them, and just for your future reference, this isn't the original picture the way it looks. So you have your cake and eat it too, so to speak, with the virtual copy. So that's a handy thing to use if you're going to do something weird. Don't take that as an example of a weird thing to do, but okay. We talked about the sign. Was another? Oh, the other thing that I see somebody asked about during Jamie's presentation. The two biggest mistakes I see people making in images they turn in are having too high ISO, which results in a slow shutter speed and a blurred picture, or it results in a lot more noise than a higher ISO would have given. So you've got time now before South by. You should go out at night or something in a dark room and practice and see what your camera can do and try that and prove to yourself that your camera can handle the high ISO if you give it the right exposure. But the other thing I see people doing too much is cropping too close. So like giving me a crop like this, or especially if you did something like this where you just see the handle, the end of his guitar, and you can't tell what it is. So don't crop too close, and you gotta do that when you're taking a picture too, because you want to leave yourself room to be able to do an optimal crop in post processing. If you're shooting pictures really close, then you can't uncrop that. If you shot this picture like that, then there's nothing you can do. You can't uncrop it. But if you shoot it like I did, we all have big cameras with big sensors and lots of pixels. So if you shoot that picture in camera like this, then you have a lot of options. You can crop it like this to keep the sign. You can, or Southby can make the close-up crop if they need just a headshot or whatever. They can do a lot of different things with it. So if in doubt, leave more room around your subject. You can always crop later. You can't uncrop later. So don't that. And that's just we just see too many pictures turned in that are cropped way close, and they make them unusable. So watch that. I think that's everything I've got to show. I think we talked about everything except, well, it's described completely in the, I'm not going to really go into it here, but when you get ready to, after you've fixed all your pictures, oh, one other thing I'll show you, like if you have a bunch of pictures in the same set, like this one, they're all taken at the same time in the same set, you get one of them fixed the way you want, get the light and everything right, then you can go back to the library module, you can hit Control A, so I still have this one, see, has a brighter highlight than the rest of them. So I got all the settings yet. I haven't touched these others, but then you can say sync settings and click on synchronize and apply all the settings from this picture to all the other pictures. So once you got the white balance and all that stuff set for one picture, all the other pictures that were shot at the same time, then you have a better starting point for them, and you won't have to work on them as much. So you can apply those settings like that. That's a handy way to say a big time saver. So I usually would, for each band, I would fix the first typical picture, apply those to all the pictures of that band, then go tweak each one to tweak the white balance and cropping everything. Then you go to the next band and do one picture thoroughly and apply the settings like that. Anyway, once you get them all done, then you want to come here, highlight all the pictures for this. We'll click export, and the specs for all this are in your on the web page, and you'll get some email about this too. But you'll want to go to, I have a preset here for South by Southwest. So you're always going to want to export these as JPEGs. You always want to be 4,000 by 4,000 pixels maximum, and you don't want to enlarge them to that, of course, in case you're smaller. You don't want to put any metadata in that you send to them except for your copyright and contact info. And like I said, they do need to be JPEG, and they need to be to a, right here's a JPEG. We need to make them typically a quality of 80. Don't put that quality to 90 or 100. Just makes your pictures way bigger, and you can't tell any difference in the quality. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions or anything you want to talk about?
Way to go, Earl.
What was the middle part, Earl?
What middle part? Huh? There was no middle part. It's just a beginning and an end. Now we're back to seeing 8 million copies of this. Let's see if I can.
You must have taken the blue pill.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any questions come in? I wasn't watching questions while I was doing that, so I don't see anything new.
There's one question here about carrying a monopod.
Yeah, if you get attacked by muggers, that's a really good thing to have a monopod with you to fight them off. So, I don't normally do that. I think some people do, and especially if you have a big heavy lens that you're shooting with a lot, it can help make it lighter. But
yeah, the only time I use monopods is if I'm shooting a keynote in a large grand ballroom, and I take the 70 to 200 lens on the monopod, go to the back of the stadium or whatever of the ballroom, and take shots at 200 millimeter, and it can really help them.
The other time, it's okay to take a monopod. I really believe in traveling light because all that gear gets really heavy the longer you carry it.
Agreed.
So don't carry stuff unless you really think it helps you. And I don't usually carry a monopod. I have one. I usually keep one in the trunk of my car so I can go back and get it if I know I'm going to do something. The other big use of a monopod that I think is a really legitimate use, but not with a 200 millimeter lens, is to be able to put your camera on that and raise it up high so you can get an unusual angle of a shot. So sometimes that can help give you a shot that sets itself apart from everybody else. If you can shoot from 10 or 12 feet up in the air and shoot down at a panel or something boring and get a different angle or get up to a sign and stuff, that can help. So monopods can give you, they can let you look down on things that you wouldn't, without having to carry a ladder around. So yeah, monopods can be useful, but just be careful about carrying everything you own every time. You'll regret it towards the end of the day.
And in some cases, it's completely unpractical. There's no way you're going to have a monopod up when you're around 1,000 drunk people, headbanging at some show that you're trying to photograph.
Yeah, in music, it's going to be
lucky that you have enough space just to stand.
Yeah, it'll be hard to use in music, but in panels and stuff, sometimes we're always looking for ways to try and make boring panels look interesting, and the monopod can help you get some different angles or shoot from the back and get different things going on, like as Rob pointed out. So, okay.
That was the only one I saw.
So we've got just one last little section here for you guys. I really appreciate everybody hanging in. I know it's not easy to sit and listen to people talking for this long and actually pay attention. So if you're still paying attention, we love you. If you're not paying attention, we love you. We still love you. It's great. We really
love you anyway.
We love you no matter what. We're going to spend, Rob, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
We can do 5?
Absolutely. Yeah, because a lot of stuff has already been covered.
Yeah, just touching on low light, because shooting at South by means shooting in low light, and that's something that not everybody's really completely familiar with, but it's something that we feel like, and well, if you're not comfortable shooting in low light now, by the end of this thing you definitely will be. So take it away, Rob.
Sure. One of the most amazing and rewarding experiences you're going to have is getting assigned to a venue that has very low light, either no light or mono light, either all red or all blue. And there are a few tricks of the trade that you can use that will really allow you to take some high quality pictures. And so we're just going to talk at a very high level about a couple of things you can do. As Earl said before, number one, ISO is your friend. So don't be afraid to jack up the ISO in order to get a high quality shot. Why do you raise the ISO? You raise the ISO so you can have a better shutter speed. I typically like to shoot at 1/200, 1/160, 1/60. I believe Jonathan can even manage handheld 1/60. But if you get too low, you start blurring, and you can even blow out highlights and things of that sort. So try higher ISOs. I've actually, depending on your camera, you can go up to 8,000, 6,000, 10,000, even 12.5 and get relatively high quality shots. Again, it depends on your camera. If you have some of the more entry versions, you may be limited to 1250 or 3200, but try it out. Try out your camera, see what you can get. The second piece is to, if you possibly can, get the fastest lens you can manage. For music and low light, when you're up at the stage, keep in mind that f2.8 or lower, f1.4, 1.8 are really great because they also allow you to get a better shutter speed with a higher ISO. All three work in combination, so try out different types of combinations to see what works for your particular camera and your particular lens. I've even taken relatively good pictures with f3.5 lenses. So don't discount yourself, but if you possibly can, rent or buy f2.8 lens. Now, because you're so close, it's really good to have a wide-angle lens and something in the mid-range. So say something 20 to 70 and something, say, 16 to 35. If you could get those two zooms, that's all you would need. You can use prime equivalents in there as well if you don't have access to the zooms. But those lenses will really get you going pretty far. The last thing is to be careful and don't necessarily trust your camera in two ways. The first is don't trust the back of the screen look of the picture after you take it. It can look really good, and then you get into post-processing and it's a totally crappy picture. You need to be looking at your histograms. Histograms will show you if you're all over the place, blowing out highlights and things of that sort, things that you won't necessarily see when you look at the back of your camera. The other piece is to always, well, not always, if you possibly can, shoot RAW, because RAW is so much more forgiving and you have so much more flexibility in post-processing. And what else? ISO is your friend. Fast lenses. Sparing use of flash. There are instances where there's just nothing you can do. You have a totally red stage, or the DJ has unplugged the lights on stage. You're forced to shoot in very low light setting. You can use your flash at the lowest possible settings to get a couple of good shots, typically in the first couple of 2 or 3 songs. In venues where there is no pit, you can ask the stage manager or the band members or tell them that you're going to take a few low light flash. Is that okay? And almost always in those settings they'll say yes. The only exception is when there's a pit. When there's a pit, typically the lighting is really good, but if you have bad lighting in those situations, they will typically tell you that flash is not allowed, and you just do the best that you can. And sometimes I've even seen them on South by Southwest magazine. You can get a really good red pick or a really good green or blue pick, but you don't want all of your picks to be that way. So the idea is, if you can, use your flash to take a couple of good high quality picks at the lowest possible flash setting, and then go at it with whatever else you got for the rest of the set, and do your thing with whatever ambient light exists. The final strategies I wanted to mention are that you need to manage your environment, adapt to your surroundings, and that means that you should talk to the stage manager. If the lighting is bad, first of all, get there way ahead of time. Schmooze up to the stage manager, to the production folks, and see if you find that there are light issues. See if you can get them to splash in a little bit of good light during the show. They almost always accommodate you, and that's a really good practice, but you got to get there early. I guess I'm thinking that's about all I wanted to say. Jonathan, you have any fill-in?
No, I think that's good. I think one big thing is just, if you are not used to shooting shutter priority, that's a big shift. Before I shot at South by, I never shot shutter priority. In fact, I wondered who would ever use it. But then when you realize oh, this is as fast as I can shoot without getting a blurry shot, it becomes very, very useful. So putting your camera on shutter priority and letting the camera figure some of the other stuff out, like the auto ISO and aperture and that sort of thing, can be useful. But it's not absolute, and sometimes you have to go basically full manual, and that's cool too. I always kind of like that. It's all right. It's just me figuring out how to get the shot, and the camera's out of it. So don't be afraid of that.
Yeah, I will mention that in these showcase venues, you're typically assigned the entire evening to shoot one place. And what almost always happens is that the most popular bands come at the end of the evening. So you can use the first couple of bands to try out all the different settings you possibly can, and you'll be set for the later shows. most of all, have fun. It's a challenge. It's great, and you're absolutely going to love it. I promise.
Yep, it's good times. So I guess for all of us, thank you again for hanging out with us and sticking with us. Really appreciate it. Keep your eyes peeled to your email. We'll be sending out communications, including links to the presentations and things that you saw here tonight. And also make sure to let us know if you have not gotten an invitation to the Facebook group so we can get you added in there. I know there's several people that are still not a member there. So if that's you, let us know that it's you, and we'll get you an invite. So unless anybody has anything else, I'll say thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
I don't see any more questions, so yep. We'll see you guys next week at South by.
Thank you, East Coasters, who are up really, really late.
Yeah.
Nighty-night.
Good night.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye. The end.